At the family meeting with my fiancé, Vincent's doctor family. Tom, his dad, shouted to me, "No son of mine is marrying a poor girl raised by a single mom." Shocked, I looked to his mom, Teresa, who added, "I want to see what kind of parents raised you. What's wrong with having a single mom?" I couldn't stand their condescending attitude towards my mother. If they want to see my parents so badly, then fine, I'll show them. My name is Sarah. I'm 28 years old and work at a company. When I started my job at 22, by the time I was 26, I had gotten used to the work and had more free time. I tried going to parties, but it never felt right. But if I didn't go, I wouldn't meet anyone. I thought, am I going to be single forever? Then, I stumbled upon an unexpected encounter. Or rather, I found a man who had drunk too much. Well, to be precise, I helped a man who was crouching by the roadside, clearly having had too much to drink. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry, my coworker made me drink too much." What happened next was pretty predictable. That man ended up throwing up all over my clothes. In a fit of shock, I threw a punch and hit him squarely. In the heat of the moment, I forgot myself and hit him. As if that was the final blow, the man fainted, and in a panic, I called an ambulance. And that's how my relationship with Vincent started. You want more details? Well, a lot happened, a lot. Life is like that, you never know where you'll meet someone. I met him quite by chance. At the cost of my favorite outfit. Yes, I'm still a bit bitter about losing my brand new favorite dress. But he sincerely apologized, and we ended up falling in love and started dating. All's well that ends well. After 2 years of dating, a month after I turned 28, Vincent proposed to me last night. He thought it was about time now that he turned 30 this year. Being a doctor is a tough job, and now that he's gotten used to it, it was one of his reasons. I thought it would be later, maybe when I was in my 30s, so I was overjoyed. I immediately said yes. Honestly, marrying someone with such a demanding job as a doctor means there will be many hardships. But he is sincere, kind, and most importantly, he cherishes me. I believed I could be happy with him. A little hardship is nothing. Sure, we could have a happy life together, but reality isn't that simple. Marriage involves a large-scale event, bringing both families together. So, not only my family but also Vincent's family would inevitably be involved. My family is just my mom. My dad didn't die. My mom became a single mother for various reasons. As a child, I sometimes felt lonely without a dad, but my mom gave me so much love that I grew up without any issues. On the other hand, he has a big family. His parents, siblings, and even relatives are all doctors, which is surprising. Tom worked at a large hospital before opening his own practice, and Teresa met him at the same hospital and retired when Tom opened his practice and they got married. His 2 older brothers work at different hospitals and don't plan to take over their parents' practice. So, naturally, the one to take over the practice is the youngest, Vincent. Does that mean I'll be a doctor's wife in the future? Wow, I can't imagine it. Our relationship started without knowing much about each other. Not only that, but I have witnessed Vincent getting completely drunk, which was the worst possible scene. At first, he told me he had a steady job, but he didn't tell me what it was. I found out he was a doctor about a month into our relationship. Vincent, who had experienced various reactions just because he was a doctor, found it hard to tell me. I was surprised, but I accepted it calmly, thinking that I didn't fall in love with him because he was a doctor, but the person I fell in love with happened to be a doctor. But when it comes to marriage, and with a family of doctors, it makes me feel a bit heavy. In fact, about a year into our relationship, I met his parents for the first time. At that time, I thought they were just curious about their son's girlfriend, given their age. But that first meeting was intense. First, Teresa commented on my appearance with, "Wow, you have such a plain face." That was a harsh first punch. While I was speechless. Well, if it's just for fun, this level is acceptable. I still haven't forgotten those words. Sorry, but we're seriously getting married. I wonder how Teresa will react now. And Tom. What? A single mother? Is this a joke? What I said. Tom has the image that children from single-parent families can't live a proper life. When I told him that I went to school, graduated from college, and worked at a regular company, he gave me a very skeptical look. Does my face look that untrustworthy? Is it because it's plain? Do plain faces look untrustworthy? And both of them said, "We can't eat with someone from such a plain and poor family," and left the restaurant without eating anything. Vincent was furious with his parents and apologized profusely to me, but he wasn't at fault. I wonder how such a kind and good person grew up with those parents. He said, "My parents were busy and had their hands full taking care of my older brothers, so as the youngest, I was pretty much neglected." What this? That makes sense. Maybe staying away from those parents had a positive result. After understanding that, a year has passed. The thought of meeting those parents again makes me feel heavy. But for the sake of marrying my beloved Vincent, I'm determined to overcome some obstacles. I got fired up last night. Today, on this holiday, I stood in front of an impressive stately mansion. Oh. Sarah, you're not forming words. This is your house? Yes, he said jokingly. I could tell he was trying to ease my tension, and I laughed. Oh, I really do want to marry him. No, I will marry him. For that, I must endure one or two of Vincent's parents' snide remarks. I clenched my fist in my heart. The inside of the house was as impressive as the outside, with a very grand interior. A large vase in the entrance hall looked like it could be worth my monthly salary. And, of course, there were several housekeepers. Is private practice that profitable? Sure, doctors driving fancy cars is a common image. By the way, Vincent drives a regular car. I'm grateful he shares my sensibilities. I hope he doesn't change even after taking over the family practice. No, I will protect his heart so he doesn't change. For that, I must get their approval for our marriage no matter what. As I was thinking about these things, we were shown to the drawing room. This was also grand. The large sofa must be genuine leather. The floor seemed to be marble. The carpet was plush and spotless. I felt a wave of tension, thinking I shouldn't spill even a drop of coffee. However, what made me most nervous was the figure sitting calmly on the large couch. The man sitting on the single-seater couch was familiar. Vincent's dad, Tom. The woman sitting on the couch next to him was also familiar. Vincent's mom, Teresa. His brothers couldn't make it because they were working and lived far away. But on the two-seater couch, there was a photo and name tag of one of his brothers. It looked like a memorial photo and was a bit eerie. And then there was another single-seater couch. Teresa said, "Vincent, sit there," and gestured to it. That was it. If Vincent sat there, there would be no more seats or chairs left. Wait, what about me? Did I miss something? I looked around, but there was nothing else to sit on in the spacious drawing room. Mom, there's no place for Sarah to sit. Vincent noticed my confusion and asked his parents. But Teresa didn't answer. What are we supposed to do? I can't exactly move his brother's photos and sit there. Oh, does she mean for me to sit on Vincent's lap? No way, not in front of his parents, just kidding. But seriously, what should I do? Stand next to Vincent? Hey Mom, Dad, let's move the photos so Sarah and I can sit together. Vincent called out, but instead of Teresa, it was Tom who responded. That woman has no seat. What? Vincent was shocked at the sudden statement. No seat? What are you talking about, Dad? Vincent, why are you here today? What do you mean? I told you beforehand. We came to have a family meeting because I'm marrying Sarah. I won't allow it. What? Vincent was confused as Tom continued. Vincent, it's one thing if you're just playing around, but are you seriously planning to marry that woman? Playing around? I've been serious about her all along and I seriously intend to marry her. Then I won't allow it. Won't allow it? What is that supposed to mean? Vincent demanded an explanation, getting more frustrated. Tom, crossing his arms and leaning back, spoke clearly. I won't let you marry someone who grew up in a poor single-parent family. There's too much of a gap between our families. Her goal is probably money. She is not like that. Vincent's face turned red as he denied it, but Tom just sneered. Is she? I've seen plenty of women who came after me just because I was a doctor when I was younger. Don't lump her in with those people. Sarah didn't even know I was a doctor when we started dating. She loves me for who I am. And I love her with all my heart. Oh, being confessed to so openly is embarrassing. But this is no time to be blushing. This is a serious crisis. I can't just leave it to him, so I tried to join the conversation. Excuse me, but... You! Shut up! I was silenced before I could say anything. But I can't back down here, or we won't get married. I won't be defeated. I grew up in a single-parent family, but we weren't poor. I raised my voice. That's right. Why does being raised by a single mother equate to being poor? There are families with both parents who are poor, and single-parent families who are well off. Well, we weren't exactly wealthy, but we had a standard economic situation. I even went to college without a scholarship. I have no reason to be called poor. Then, Tom yelled. Shut up! Listen, I've lived twice as long as you, so I know. Your face looks definitely poor. Your plain face shows that you grew up in a poor family. What does a poor face even mean? It's one thing if you say my clothes look poor, but my face. This face is inherited from my parents. That means your mom has a plain face too. That's why she ended up being a single mother. I said faces have nothing to do with it. Any sense of politeness or nervousness was gone. If he's being rude, why should I care about being polite? You poor thing! Plain and poor! Don't judge me like that. You're just after money. I work and earn my own money. I'm not struggling. Liar! I've never lied in my life. The argument with Tom was getting more and more childish. He's a doctor, but maybe he's clueless about anything other than medicine. Though saying I've never lied in my life is actually a lie. But my feelings for Vincent are genuine. There's no reason for me to be called a gold digger or a liar. As I was arguing with Tom, what a disgraceful behavior. Teresa, who had been silent, finally spoke. People raised by single parents really show their lack of upbringing. What did you say? Did you just insult all single-parent families in the world? Plain face and disgraceful. Do you even understand your position? The gap between our families is huge. I don't think my upbringing was bad. That's your subjective opinion. Objectively, all people raised by single parents are disgraceful. Huh? Yeah, sure I'm disgraceful, and my face is plain. But so what? What does that have to do with me being raised in a single-parent family? There are many families with various circumstances. Most people don't choose to become single parents. But they still do their best. At the very least, my mom worked hard to raise me. She did her best to prevent me from struggling or feeling lonely, and I am grateful for her love. I have nothing to be ashamed of. There's no reason for Vincent's parents to say such terrible things. Well, we could hire you as a housekeeper. We'll find a suitable, wonderful girl for Vincent to marry, so you can work as a housekeeper. Teresa, laughing nastily, is much more disgraceful. That sounds good. Hey, girl, you and Vincent don't match, but we'll allow you to be a housekeeper. Feel honored to work in such a prestigious family as ours. Tom also laughed nastily and disgracefully. They completely looked down on me and my family background. They looked down on single-parent families. Yes, Vincent could marry a relative of the director of the medical foundation we are associated with. Oh, that director. Yes, since he's single with no heir, let's see if he has a suitable female relative. If we play our cards right, someone from our family could be the next director. They spoke excitedly, completely ignoring me. Teresa, getting carried away. Your mom must be just as plain, poor, and money-grubbing as you are. I'd love to see what kind of woman raised someone like you. I'd really like to see your parents' faces. The moment those words left her mouth, I felt something snap inside me. All right, I'll take that fight. Who do you think you are, talking like that? I almost screamed, but managed to hold back at the last moment. Instead, I said, "Fine," in a very low voice. The tone was so deep and resonant, it seemed to come from the depths of the earth, silencing his parents for a moment. Glaring at them, I announced, "Then I'll introduce you." What? Oh, your mom? Well, I'm not really serious about meeting her. You said you wanted to see my parents' faces, didn't you? Well, I don't care about seeing some poor person's face. I'll show you. How about tomorrow? Tomorrow? Well, I have a doctor's appointment. After your appointment, then. I'll show you in the evening. No, that's really not necessary. I'm going to show you my parents' faces. Listen to me. Ignoring Teresa's voice shouting behind me, I stormed out of their house. Vincent chased after me, apologizing profusely, while I called my parents. The next day, I arranged for Vincent to bring his parents to a restaurant at a fancy hotel. We met outside the hotel. His parents arrived, smirking unpleasantly. Are you sure you can afford a place like this? Just so you know, we're not paying. Did you think we'd cover the bill just because you invited us? That's a typical poor person's trick. Don't worry. We'll cover the bill. Oh, really? Teresa's face fell, disappointed. They had expected me to beg them to pay. Not a chance. Vincent, however. Sarah, are you sure? This hotel's restaurant is really expensive. Even we can't come here often. I mean, I can help pay, but still. Looked worried. It was no wonder Vincent was concerned. This hotel was famous for its high quality and high prices. But it's just the restaurant, not the hotel stay. We can manage a few months' worth of salary for this. It would empty our savings. But I was that angry. It wasn't just the word poor that set me off. The insult to my mom made me furious. What's a high-priced restaurant compared to that? So, we entered the most luxurious restaurant in the hotel. Even Teresa looked shocked. And no wonder, we were led to a completely private room. A VIP room, known only to a select few. Wait a minute. Teresa called out in a panic, and I turned my head slightly. What is it? Can you really pay for this? You're not planning to dine and dash, are you? No, we won't do that. We're not paying, you know? I told you, we don't need you to pay. Annoying. I said this and walked into the room first. Then I turned to Vincent, Tom, and Teresa, gesturing to the inside of the room. Seeing the three of them look inside. Here are my parents. I beamed and said. Indeed, two people were already waiting in the private room. A man and a woman, both fairly aged. Undoubtedly, my parents. What? Tom and Teresa were shocked, but Vincent also exclaimed in surprise. Sarah, didn't you say your dad isn't around? That's right. Legally, he's not related. What? Vincent tilted his head, looking puzzled, while his parents, who had been sitting, stood up. Then a man extended his hand to Vincent. You must be Vincent. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. What? Oh, hi. Vincent shook hands, looking bewildered. Just then, Mr. Moore, the chairman! Tom shouted. What? Teresa reacted to his shout. My dad, the man in question, smiled at the sound of her voice. Well, hello, long time no see. Why are you here? Why? Because I heard my daughter Sarah is getting married. As her dad, I came to greet the man who will be her husband. The chairman is your dad. But aren't you single? I'm not married. What? Tom was left speechless, his mouth agape. As I watched him with satisfaction, my sleeve was tugged. It was Vincent. What is it? Hey, could it be that the Mr. Moore chairman your dad is talking about is from that major hospital group? Yes. That Mr. Moore chairman. Is it really true? Vincent was at a loss for words. Just yesterday, Tom and Teresa had been talking about finding someone suitable for Vincent to marry, mentioning the chairman. And that chairman turned out to be my dad. But the chairman has always maintained he's single, and I've never heard of him having children. Of course, because we kept it a secret. So you're an illegitimate child? Yes. As I nodded, Vincent let out a big sigh and became even more dumbfounded. You see, my parents fell passionately in love as if it were destiny. But back then, my mom was really poor, and my dad's family vehemently opposed their marriage. They even thought about eloping, but my mom didn't want to ruin my dad's future, so she quietly disappeared. However, my dad's love was not something that could be easily extinguished. He relentlessly searched for my mom, and they secretly reunited. And then I was conceived. But given the fierce opposition from his family, it was unimaginable that they would allow the marriage. Moreover, my dad feared that his family might harm us, so he decided not to marry and instead supported us from the shadows. With the advent of the internet and the proliferation of smartphones, it became easier for them to communicate, and they nurtured their love quietly, away from prying eyes. Dad, while serving as the chairman of the medical corporation, supported us and watched me grow through photos and videos sent by my mom. Mom worked as a single mother and used all the money sent by Dad for my sake. It was thanks to that money that I could attend college. Mom was incredibly hardworking, determined to earn the living expenses on her own. She told me stories about Dad, but we never met in person to avoid the risk of being discovered by his family. However, by the time I graduated from college, the attitude of the people around us had softened significantly. Dad's parents had grown old and frail, And even our relatives, who were my age, had grown up and started to think that such old-fashioned views were outdated. When I started my professional life, I met Dad for the first time in person, and we bonded as if we had always been together. My parents finally got married last year.
What? I never heard about that.
Teresa was astonished. Well, you and Teresa had already left the hospital group by then. I suppose they saw no reason to tell you. I looked at Dad, who nodded silently. Vincent, please take good care of Sarah. Please take care of Sarah. Dad and Mom spoke up. Vincent hastily.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with you,
replied. Tom, who had been in a daze, snapped back to reality. Oh, wow, I'm so surprised. I never imagined the director had such a wonderful daughter. Wow, what a change of heart. Wasn't he the one who called her plain-looking and said she should be a housekeeper? As I watched with disdain. Hello, I'm Sarah's dad, the one you called plain and said should be a housekeeper. Dad said, making me laugh. In front of me, Tom was frozen with a pale face. Oh, no, that was just a joke. And you called my wife plain, poor, and money-hungry too? That was something my wife said on her own. Tom's face grew even paler at Dad's words. Beside him, Teresa also looked panicked. That was a joke, just a joke, she stammered. Oh, a joke, huh? Dad said, and they both looked relieved. But if they thought the conversation was over, they were sorely mistaken. By the way, Dad continued, I heard your hospital has a pretty bad reputation. What? Tom seemed completely taken aback by this sudden statement. Dad pressed on, seeing Tom's confused face. I often hear things from patients who come to our affiliated hospital. Especially about the general hospital you used to work at. You and your wife are still quite the topic of conversation. What are you talking about? Your arrogant attitude towards patients hasn't changed, has it? No way! This was something Dad discovered last night after hearing about Vincent's parents. Once Dad recognized the name, it didn't take long for him to gather information. Your reputation at the old hospital was terrible. You were practically fired. And now you're running your own clinic, huh? I wasn't fired. I resigned. But you were known for your arrogant attitude, unclear explanations of medical conditions, and you sucked up to wealthy patients while giving poor treatment to those who seemed less affluent. Didn't you quit in a fit of anger after being reprimanded? That's not true. Your wife is the same way, quitting hastily before she could be reprimanded. I, and the other staff, remember it well. I thought it was impressive that you started your own practice, but now it seems it was just because you couldn't stay at the hospital and had to force your way into opening your own clinic. And I didn't know this, but apparently, Tom is infamous around here as a corrupt doctor. You still prioritize rich patients, don't you? Ugh. You're still looking down on people, aren't you? Ugh. Is it true you told a patient who seemed poor to just put some spit on their injury? That was supposed to be a joke. There's nothing funny about such a remark. Dad suddenly shouted, making Tom's voice shrink to a whisper. Beside him, Teresa was also shrinking away. What do you think being a doctor means? Wealth has nothing to do with the value of a life. Each one is equally important. A doctor's duty is to save lives and stand by their patients. Shame on you. I'm so sorry. The two of them apologized profusely as Dad raged on. Dad looked down coldly and said, That's enough. In that moment, I clearly saw their faces. Their expressions said, We're forgiven now. They were thinking, everything will be fine. Our son is marrying the director's daughter. Our family will be secure, and maybe even get the director's position someday. Dad saw right.
You may think everything will go smoothly, but don't be so sure.
Through their thoughts.
A hospital doesn't choose its patients. Patients choose their hospital. What does that mean?
Even if you don't understand now, you'll soon see the results. Tom and Teresa tilted their heads in confusion. There was no need for further explanation. I told them,
"Please leave now."
Tom and Teresa were shocked.
"What? But we were going to have dinner."
"We've completed what we needed to do.
As we promised yesterday, you've seen my parents.
Now, please go."
"But at least let us stay for dinner."
"You think my face is plain, right?"
"Huh?"
Teresa looked startled by my sudden question. I hugged Dad's arm right in front of her. "See, I look just like my parent, don't I?"
"Huh? Oh!"
It suddenly clicked for her. My statement, "This face is from my parent." I never said Mom. I was referring to Dad. Standing next to each other, anyone could see the resemblance between Dad and me.
"The face you called plain, I inherited from Dad."
I laughed as I said it. Next to me, Dad, the source of my looks, also laughed. Teresa's lips moved soundlessly as she realized his eyes weren't laughing. When I said,
"Please leave."
Again, the two hurriedly left.
"Goodbye."
Forever. I thought to myself. After that, my parents, Vincent, and I enjoyed a wonderful gourmet meal. Later, Vincent and I got married. We had a modest wedding. His parents-in-law didn't attend. They had other concerns. Tom's hospital, already infamous, quickly fell apart when word spread about his rude behavior. Predictably, it blew up. His parents-in-law were too busy handling the fallout, and the hospital soon closed down. All the staff left, fed up with Tom and Teresa's arrogance. A mass resignation. Both patients and staff abandoned the hospital, leading to its closure. Their sons didn't feel sorry for them. Before our wedding, I met Vincent's brothers and learned a shocking truth. His parents-in-law had also been nasty to their wives, making snide remarks and bullying them. As a result, Vincent's brothers refused to take over Tom's hospital and moved far away from the in-laws' house. "Didn't they keep calling you plain-faced?" When I asked one brother's wife, she gave a bitter smile and nodded. Did they have some trauma about plain faces? The hospital's closure, unpaid salaries, and severance pay put the parents-in-law in a dire situation. They hired lawyers, but life isn't that easy. The settlement costs were huge. Desperate for money, they sold their mansion. That solved their immediate problems, but left them nearly penniless. Their sons declared they would only provide minimal support, so the parents-in-law now live in an old, shabby apartment, barely getting by. So, there's talk that once the pension comes in, they'll be able to get by, but it seems like they're living a lonely life without seeing their brother-in-law's kids. Of course, whether we'll let them see our kids if we have any, well, we'll decide when the time comes. They've always looked down on people for being plain and poor, so they can enjoy living a poor life now. A wedding without in-laws is nothing but peaceful. If those two had been there, they would have definitely had a lot of complaints. Vincent originally worked at a general hospital to gain experience. It's good that he hadn't yet taken over Tom's hospital. We invited people from each other's workplaces and friends, so many people came to celebrate our wedding. There weren't any particularly flashy performances, but I felt incredibly happy. But the happiest moment, by far, was at the end of the ceremony, when we shared our letters of gratitude to our parents. Vincent read his letter to his brothers, and then I gave my words to my parents. At the end, I looked at my parents and said, Thank you for raising me and for all the love you've given me, Mom and Dad. The moment I said it, my dad cried, Mom cried, and I cried. Dad hugged both Mom and me. I hugged them back. It was the first time our family felt united.
Rebecca will be living with us from today. Actually, we're dating.
Matthew, my husband, declared to me with a grin.
I got a boyfriend and a housekeeper.
And of course, by housekeeper, I mean you. My mom Rebecca draped over Matthew's shoulder, laughing at me mockingly. How could they say such things so nonchalantly in this situation? I had just received word that my family home had completely burned down and had gone to see it. I was extremely shocked that the home filled with memories of my late father was gone. However, in contrast to me, my mom seemed unfazed. Even though her own house had burned down, I felt something was off about how she didn't seem sad at all. But I never imagined that as soon as Matthew brought her home with him, they would spout such ridiculous nonsense to me. As I stared at them in disbelief, Matthew laughingly said, "Too shocked to even speak?" Completely missing the point.
You must be caught off guard that Rebecca and I are dating.
He laughed.
We're so in love. Sorry, but I'll be living here starting today, so as the housekeeper, you better take good care of me too. For starters, I want steak for dinner tonight.
At her words, I couldn't help but spit out.
Disgusting. The nerve of you two.
I don't usually use such harsh language, so the two of them looked surprised.
I already knew about your relationship. I have proof, so I'll be suing you for damages.
My name is Katie. I'm a 35-year-old sales rep at a major trading company. I met my husband Matthew, who is a web designer, through work. He was a very dedicated worker with flexible thinking. As I grew to respect him, I also wanted to get to know him better, so I boldly asked him out to dinner. When I was with him, I felt I could be my natural self, which was very comfortable. From there, our relationship progressed smoothly. Then, about 2 years into dating, he proposed and we decided to get married.
Katie, let's get married. In my life, I know I'll never meet a woman more amazing than you. Will you stay by my side forever?
He doesn't usually say such cheesy lines, but this time he said it with an embarrassed smile. His voice trembled a bit, likely from nerves.
Of course. I feel the same. I'll never meet or love anyone more than you. Let's get married.
I accepted his proposal with words overflowing with just as much love. Soon after, he came to my family home to greet my mother. My father had passed away from illness 5 years ago, so my mom lived alone. At 58, my mom is such a beauty that she's mistaken for being in her 40s or even 30s. Not only is she beautiful, she puts in the effort to look young. With luxurious eyelash extensions, vivid pink lipstick, her long beautiful hair perfectly curled, and wearing a miniskirt, no one would think she's 58. Mom has always been gorgeous, so whenever classmates would say things like,
"Whose mom is that? She's so pretty."
At school events, it made me happy too. But when they found out she was my mom, my classmates would make a fuss.
You don't look alike.
Which depressed me every time. It's true I don't resemble my mom. If anything, I take after my late father. He looked nervous as he deeply bowed his head and greeted my beautiful mom.
Nice to meet you. I'm Matthew. It's a pleasure.
After looking Matthew up and down, Mom's face broke into a huge smile. Matthew, don't be so nervous. I'm Katie's mom. Now, let's all have some coffee. Matthew, don't be so nervous. I'm Katie's mom. Now, let's all have some coffee. Mom spoke in an even higher pitch than usual as she showed Matthew to the living room.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Mom seemed relieved by Matthew's welcoming attitude. The three of us gathered around the table, but for some reason, Mom sat next to him. I ended up sitting across from them, and I couldn't help but voice my displeasure to Mom.
Hey Mom, why are you sitting next to Matthew?
Oh, what's the big deal?
It's easier to have a heart-to-heart conversation when you're sitting next to someone rather than across from them. After all, he's going to be my precious daughter's husband, so I need to get to know him well.
Mom smiled broadly. Matthew seemed a bit perplexed.
Katie, I'm fine with this,
he said. See, Matthew says it's okay too. As she spoke, Mom linked her arm with him.
Hey! Don't link arms with him. You're making him uncomfortable.
Geez.
It's not a big deal.
Katie, you're so fussy. Mom unlinked her arm reluctantly, puffing out her cheeks. Matthew, Katie has always been a nag. She gets angry so easily.
Katie, I'm totally fine.
Matthew smiled at me reassuringly. Afterwards, the three of us talked while drinking coffee, and Mom was in a good mood the whole time.
Matthew is so wonderful. I'm so happy that Katie is marrying such a handsome man.
Mom kept casually touching him. She didn't link arms with him again, so I didn't scold her every time, but I felt an uncomfortable, uneasy feeling. As the greetings were coming to an end, Matthew said in a formal tone,
I'd like to pay my respects to your father's photo, if that's all right. Oh, how sweet! The photo is over here.
Mom happily showed him to the photo. She was impressed by his politeness.
He's so well-mannered.
And seemed to really like him, saying, on the way back from my parents' house, I apologized to him for Mom's behavior. Matthew, thank you for today. I'm sorry Mom kept touching you so much.
No, it's totally fine. I'm relieved that your mom is such a friendly person. I think we'll get along well from now on.
I was worried that he might be fed up with Mom's overly familiar attitude, but when he said that, I felt relieved too. The following week, we went to his parents' house for a family meeting, and we were able to get married without any issues. We finished moving into our new home and started our newlywed life. Although we were spending our days smoothly, there was one thing I felt guilty about towards him. My job required frequent business trips, so I often had to leave home soon after getting married. I felt guilty about leaving the housework to him, who worked from home, while I went on business trips, but he supported my work without a single complaint.
I'm not good at housework, but since Katie usually does most of it, I have to do my best at least while you're away on trips.
When he smiled and said that, I truly felt that I was glad I married him. Then one day, when I came back from a business trip, there was an unexpected person there.
Welcome back, Katie. The stew will be ready soon, so let's all eat together. I already made the salad and put it in the fridge. Oh, I didn't expect you're here.
That's right. The person stirring the pot and smiling brightly was my mom.
Matthew said it was hard for him to do all the housework alone, so Rebecca came all the way here to help out. I'm really grateful,
he told me happily, sitting comfortably on the living room sofa.
All right, the stew is ready, so let's all have dinner.
With that, Mom set the table with salad, cream stew, and baguettes. The delicious smell made my stomach growl. Mom, thank you. Let's eat. I thanked Mom and dug into her home cooking. It had been a while since I tasted Mom's cooking, but the familiar flavors filled my heart with warmth and satisfaction.
Rebecca, this is amazing. I could eat this forever.
Matthew also praised Mom's cooking, and Mom looked delighted. After the three of us enjoyed a pleasant dinner together, Mom said.
Oh my, look at the time. I should get going then.
She started to head out.
Mom, thank you for today. Oh, don't be so formal. I'll be back to cook again soon.
When I expressed my gratitude, she smiled happily. From then on, every time I went on a business trip, Mom would come over to help out with the household chores. I was grateful to Mom, but suddenly Matthew's attitude became strange. It happened on a typical morning, just like any other. As Matthew and I were having breakfast and I was washing the dishes, he abruptly told me, "Katie, why don't you try growing out your hair and curling it? Your current style kinda lacks femininity. It's like you don't have any appeal." What? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? I was shocked because it was the first time he had said something like that to me. "I'm just saying, Katie, you kinda lack sex appeal. Your makeup is so natural too. Can't you glam it up a bit?"
I don't really like wearing heavy makeup. And I prefer my hair on the shorter side like it is now.
I tried to answer calmly. But he laughed mockingly. "Humph, I can't believe someone as beautiful as Rebecca has a plain daughter like you." What? I couldn't believe my ears. I never imagined the day would come when he'd say something like that to me. Why would you say something so cruel? Why are you comparing me to Mom? I asked, my voice trembling. I'm just stating facts. He spat out those words and retreated into his room. From then on, he constantly made comments comparing Mom and me. No matter how much I told him to stop, he wouldn't listen. Gradually, I could feel my love for him fading. Then one day, I returned home from a 3-day business trip to find Mom had come over to cook again.
Katie, welcome back. We're having fried chicken today.
I was thankful that Mom was coming to help with chores, and I appreciated it. However, lately Matthew had been making so many comparisons between Mom and me that I was starting to feel resentment towards Mom bubbling up inside me.
Mom, you came again today. Thank you.
I expressed my gratitude as usual, not letting the unpleasant feelings swirling inside me show. Mom smiled at me kindly, but Matthew sighed softly when he saw my face. Oh, you're back already. I could feel my heart turning cold at Matthew's words, but I pretended not to hear and went to put my bags in the bedroom. As I looked down at the floor, I suddenly noticed a long strand of hair. I picked up the hair and muttered, "Why is this in the bedroom?" My hair was short, and Matthew had short hair too, so it clearly wasn't ours. Instantly realizing it was Mom's hair, I quickly returned to the living room. Hey, I found a long strand of hair in the bedroom. This is Mom's hair, isn't it? Why was it in the bedroom? I asked Mom and Matthew, trying to appear as calm as possible. They both looked surprised for a moment, but then Mom burst out laughing.
Oh my goodness, you're right, that's my hair. It must have fallen out when I was cleaning the bedroom today.
Yeah, she cleaned the bedroom for us. You should be grateful. Matthew chimed in, agreeing with Mom. I felt uncomfortable with my mother entering our marital bedroom, and I couldn't help but suspect their relationship. However, with Mom helping out with the household chores, I couldn't bring myself to question them further. Around this time, my jewelry and bags kept mysteriously disappearing from the bedroom. When I asked Matthew about it suspiciously, I don't know. He just kept insisting. About a month later, he suddenly said, Hey, I have a 2-day business trip starting tomorrow. Matthew mainly worked from home, but occasionally he would visit clients. Oh really? That's unusual. At the time, I didn't think much of it and responded as such. However, Matthew seemed to be in an unusually good mood while preparing for the trip, giving me an unsettling premonition. Feeling uneasy, I decided to take a peek inside his travel bag while he was in the shower. To my surprise, it was filled with vacation brochures and new clothes that were clearly not for work.
I knew it. This isn't a business trip.
He was probably going on a vacation. And if it was a solo trip, he wouldn't need to lie to me about it being for work, so he must be going with a woman. That woman was most likely my mom. I had suspected Matthew and Mom's relationship for a while, but now I was convinced they were truly having an affair. My mind was a jumbled mess of anger and disappointment, but the sound of the bathroom door opening made me hurriedly put the contents of the bag back as they were. I wanted to confront Matthew right away, but I decided to wait until I had definitive proof before doing so.
Well, I'm off then.
The next day, I sighed inwardly as I saw him off with a beaming smile. I considered tailing him to get evidence of the affair, but suddenly remembering something, I quickly went to confirm it. Then, in the early afternoon of the day after Matthew left for his trip, I received an unexpected call from him.
Katie, listen. Something terrible happened. I'm in front of your parents' house right now, and it's completely burned down.
What? I let out a dumbfounded voice without thinking. Hey, quit joking around.
I'm not joking. Get over to your parents' house right now. Rebecca is in a daze.
So the two of them were together after all. I wanted to confront them about it, but right now I was more concerned about my childhood home being burnt to the ground. Explain it to me in detail. When I calmly asked, Matthew started to explain. Apparently, the fire was caused by a cigarette Mom had tossed carelessly, igniting the trash can. Fortunately, the neighboring houses were far enough away that the fire didn't spread.
I have a lot I want to ask you too, but for now I'll head over there immediately.
Saying that, I hung up the phone and rushed to my parents' house. Just as Matthew had said, my childhood home was completely burned down, and the area was crowded with onlookers. The shock of losing the house filled with memories of Dad made my knees buckle, but I somehow managed to stand firm, staring at the charred remains. Then Matthew and Mom approached me. In contrast to my grief, the two of them were smiling. Mom had apparently been questioned by the police, but with no suspicion of foul play, she was released. Let's go home for now. At Matthew's words, we took Mom and returned home. As soon as we arrived, Matthew proudly announced,
Starting today, Rebecca will be living with us. I got myself a boyfriend and a housekeeper. And of course, by housekeeper, I mean you, Katie.
Mom clung to Matthew as she said such a thing. Their attitude made my anger explode.
Are you kidding me? How can you say something like that so casually in this situation? Mom, our family home burned down. The house filled with memories of Dad is gone. And Matthew, there's something seriously wrong with you too.
I yelled at the two of them, but he just laughed and said,
Hey, don't get so worked up.
He seemed completely unfazed by my words. Mom was the same way. Oh my, poor Katie, you're overreacting.
More importantly, I want to share a bedroom with him, so you sleep in a separate room, okay?
She laughed mockingly. I was utterly appalled by the two of them and fell silent. Then Matthew said,
What, are you so shocked you can't even speak?
Something completely off the mark.
I bet you're completely caught off guard that Rebecca and I are dating.
He laughed. We're totally head over heels in love. Sorry about that. Since I'm going to be living here starting today, you better take good care of me as the housekeeper, Katie. At Mom's words, I couldn't help but spit out.
That's disgusting. You have some nerve. I already knew about your little affair. I have evidence too, so I'll be filing a lawsuit for damages. What? Evidence?
Matthew and Mom looked surprised, but I showed them the hidden camera I had installed in the bedroom.
Lately, my personal belongings kept disappearing from the bedroom, so I set up a camera. I thought it would catch the culprit. But when I checked the footage, your affair was captured clear as day.
So you knew, huh?
Well, that makes this easy then.
I prefer a woman like Rebecca over a plain, boring girl like you any day. Let's get divorced. Matthew told me condescendingly. Sorry, Katie. And Mom laughed.
You don't need to tell me, of course we're getting divorced.
Saying that, I opened my laptop, downloaded divorce papers from the government website, and printed them out. I signed my portion and handed them to Matthew.
Hurry up and sign your part too.
Humph, you're being surprisingly obedient.
I thought you'd put up more of a fight.
Why would I fight it? My love for Matthew had not only reached zero, it had plummeted into the negatives.
Like I said before, I'll be suing you too for damages. Be ready for that.
At my words, Mom burst out laughing.
Go right ahead, sue us for as much as you want.
Matthew.
Katie, you're such a money-grubbing woman.
Laughed too. Ignoring the two of them, I started packing a bare minimum of belongings. Then, clutching the completed divorce papers, I left the house. After submitting the divorce papers at the government office, I decided to stay at a hotel and immediately started searching for a lawyer. I browsed the websites of various law firms, feeling a burning anger and determination to drag them both through hell. However, I knew that even without me lifting a finger, the two of them were in for a world of pain. Because there was something Mom didn't know about Matthew. When Mom found out about that, she would surely wail in despair. The next morning, I was woken up by a call from Mom.
Hey! What's this about Matthew being in debt? I never heard about this.
Hearing Mom immediately start screeching, I couldn't help but smile. That's right, Matthew was actually in debt. Back when he was single, Matthew had tried to start a business and failed. But I married him knowing that. I went into the marriage resolved to pay off the debt together, and up until now, I had actually been helping with the repayments.
Hey Katie, are you listening to me? I thought Matthew had a high salary. He gave me so many gifts in reality.
I coldly told Mom, whose voice was trembling.
Matthew, a high salary?
As if.
His pay is low to begin with, and most of it goes towards paying off his debts. But even so, he was at least putting in the bare minimum for living expenses. Lately though, it seems like he's been using that money to buy you gifts instead, so I've been the one covering our costs of living.
Ever since he started making comments comparing me to Mom, he had barely been contributing to the household expenses at all.
No way. Wait a minute, then what about the damages? I thought he would pay for those.
She screeched.
I'll be properly claiming damages from both of you. I'm in the process of finding a lawyer now, so I'll send you the bill at a later date. You said to claim as much as I want, and I think the amount will be quite high, but make sure you pay it properly. Wait a minute. Hold on. I don't need a poor man like that. I'll return him to you, so don't file for damages. I don't have any savings. Return him? I don't want a man like that. Besides, I already submitted the divorce papers. So just wait to hear from the lawyer about what happens next. Goodbye.
I told her coldly and hung up the phone. Then I immediately headed to a real estate agency to look for a new place to live. I found a suitable property right away and signed the contract. During that time, she kept calling me non-stop, so I got fed up and blocked her number. Some time passed, and we arranged a meeting with lawyers present. Matthew and Mom showed up, oozing hostility towards each other. A few days prior, I had received a voicemail from Matthew saying Mom had thrown him away without a second thought. That woman, as soon as she found out I had debt, she completely changed her attitude. She looked down on me like I was trash and tossed me aside. I thought she would help pay off the debt together with me, just like Katie did. So heartless. I never imagined something like this would happen. That was the gist of the voicemail, but of course I didn't bother returning his call. It seemed Mom was drifting between acquaintances' homes, and now Matthew was living alone in the house he and I used to share. I told them, as I said the other day, I'll be claiming compensation for infidelity from both of you. Matthew openly grimaced. Are you really going to sue for damages? And muttered. Mom screeched. I don't have any money. To Mom, I quietly said. Also, the hidden camera I set up in the bedroom captured footage of you taking my bags and jewelry box. Mom trembled at my words, her mouth gaping. So I'll be claiming damages for theft from you too, Mom. Are you kidding me? I'm your actual mother. It's ridiculous to demand money from your own mother. Mom yelled at me, her face beet red. That's the extent of what you did, Mom. The accessories you stole included expensive items I received from business partners. By the way, what did you do with the things you took? Do you still have them? When I asked, Mom brazenly declared. I sold them off ages ago. At the recycling shop in front of the station. But so what? A daughter's belongings are her mother's too. Just overlook it and consider it a display of filial piety. Come on, please don't charge me any money. I heaved a big sigh at her words. Cut the crap. You are no longer my mother or anything else to me. You will pay the money without fail. When I said that coldly, Mom had tears in her eyes and a look of despair on her face. No way. I used up all of my husband's inheritance and ran out of money, so I got together with Matthew thinking he was rich. It all totally backfired. If I had known he was in debt, I never would have dated him. It seemed Mom had only ever viewed him as a host to feed off of from the beginning. What? So you were only after my money from the start? Didn't you say you loved me? He yelled at Mom. Of course I love you was a lie. As if I would ever actually fall for a guy who just has a decent face like you. If you have debt, say so from the beginning. She shouted back at him, and the two of them argued. The lawyer intervened, and finally they stopped fighting. Hey, Katie. You know better than anyone how much I'm struggling with debt, right? There's no way I can pay damages. Actually, why don't you and I start over? I really do need you, Katie. I gave a scornful look to him, who was trying to get back together with me even in this situation. Absolutely not. The reason you want to patch things up with me is because you want me to waive the damages. And you want me to help pay off your debt again, right? I can see right through what you're thinking. Ugh. He couldn't say anything back and let out a groan. To the pale-faced Matthew and Mom, I said one last thing. This is all your own faults, both of you. Have fun rotting in hell together. After that, Mom contacted the recycling shop where she had sold my belongings and managed to buy most of them back, but she still ended up with a debt she couldn't fully repay. In the end, it seemed both Matthew and Mom had to declare bankruptcy. Matthew failed to pay rent for several months and was forcibly evicted as a result. With both of their lives becoming difficult, the two of them reluctantly decided to cooperate and live together, apparently moving into a cheap, old apartment building. That apartment was about 50 years old and didn't seem to have a shower room. After some time passed, I received a call from him. I considered ignoring it, but feeling slightly curious about Matthew and Mom's current situation, I decided to answer. Hello?
Katie! I'm begging you, I can't take living like this anymore. Lend me some money.
He started ranting through gritted teeth. What? As if I would lend you money. Besides, I already agreed to let you pay the damages in installments, and you're nowhere near finished paying it off. I really wanted them to pay the damages in a lump sum, but they tearfully pleaded that there was no way they could do that, so I allowed installments. By the way, Mom also desperately apologized to me just like Matthew and requested installment payments, so I had no choice but to agree.
It's impossible now. I can't pay anymore. My computer was seized when I declared bankruptcy, so I got fired from my job as a web designer. Now I'm scraping by day-to-day doing temp work, but it's really tough since it's manual labor.
He tearfully appealed to me, but that was none of my concern. As I remained silent, he kept rambling on. This apartment is way too old. It's the worst. There's no shower room, so I have to go to the spa, but even the spa fees are hard to afford. There's no air conditioning in the room either, so I feel like I'm gonna get heat stroke. And it's so cramped that Rebecca and I are always irritated and constantly fighting. His voice gradually became choked with tears, but there was no way I would feel any sympathy.
I don't care if you got fired, or if your temp job is hard, or if your room is terrible. And of course, the state of your relationship with Mom is irrelevant too. As long as you pay me the damages, that's all that matters to me.
Why are you being so cold? Weren't we husband and wife? Was our bond really that flimsy? At Matthew's words, I felt a sensation of anger dyeing my vision red.
Don't give me that crap. Who was it that cheated on me with my own mother? You're the one who destroyed the trust between us, you bastard. What dash?
He seemed taken aback since it was the first time I had ever yelled at him like that. It's partly my fault too for not seeing through the true nature of a man like you before marrying you. I wish I could go back in time and tell my past self when I first met you what a lowlife you are.
There's no need to say that to me.
Matthew objected to me, flustered. Come on, I'm reflecting on it. Just lend me a little money. Don't be so cold.
You're the one making me say this. I absolutely will not lend you money. Do you have any idea how much I've spent up until now to help pay off your debts? Well, it was my choice to help with the repayments, so I'm not going to complain about that. But you need to stop spouting this nonsense.
I told him clearly. But Matthew still started to say,
Don't ever contact me again. If you have business with me, go through my lawyer. Goodbye. Wait a minute. Fine, I won't ask you to lend me money anymore. But I have a request for you. Rebecca is still blowing money on brand name bags and stuff. Can't you at least tell her to stop doing that?
He hurriedly told me in a rushed voice.
I don't know anything about that. You two got back together, right? Figure out how to help each other somehow and keep on living. Bye.
Saying that, I hung up the phone and immediately blocked his number. After that, it seemed Mom, still unable to control her spending habits, finally contacted a loan shark whose ad she found in her mailbox. She took out a loan and got her hands on a large sum of money, but apparently she spent it all on brand name clothes and bags in an instant. Of course, she had no way to pay it back, so it seemed she was now on the run from the loan sharks. I heard through my lawyer that Mom was asking for my help, but of course I ignored it. I hadn't expected Mom to be this obsessed with brand name goods and a luxurious lifestyle. Back when Dad was alive, she had a somewhat more modest way of living, but perhaps receiving his inheritance made her lose all self-control. Suddenly, memories of Mom from my childhood resurfaced. In that house that had burned down, I often made cookies together with Mom when I was little. She prepared all sorts of cookie cutters for me and even changed the flavor of the dough to suit my mood. In my memories, Mom was smiling gently, and I loved her very much. There was a time like that, long ago. Come to think of it, Mom's makeup gradually got heavier and her fashion got flashier over the years. Was there a reason Mom changed so much? I don't know now, and I don't want to know either. One thing I can say is that the current Mom is not the Mom I used to love. Exhausted from a life of being chased by loan sharks, it seems Mom and Matthew moved in a near escape, but the monthly transfers are still being made somehow, so I suppose they're living somewhere out there. As for me, I'm immersing myself in work even more than before. Now that I don't have to help pay off Matthew's debts, my savings are growing rapidly. I'm planning to take an extended vacation soon and go on a solo trip.